Welcome to the Midwest Blitz. It's college football comfort food for the Midwest soul. Now, here are your hosts, Coach Drew and Big Nick.
Welcome to another edition of the Midwest Blitz. It's Week 6 preview show, and it's me, Coach Drew, and our host to my left, well, I don't know if it's your left, Big Nick.
Yeah, yup.
And we're going to go straight into it today, guys. We got Wisconsin traveling to the Big House, Michigan, and this is going to be on big noon kickoff at 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern, why it's called the Big Ten noon kickoff. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead and get it started.
Unfortunately for the Badgers, this will be the Big Ten noon kickoff on Fox. Luke Fickell's struggling Badgers limp into the Big House after a home loss to Maryland, where I think they were favored by 10.5. This is rough territory for Luke Fickell and his Badgers right here. I think that Michigan might have the best run game in the Big Ten, maybe the best run blocking offensive line in the Big Ten, which is not terrible news for Wisconsin, who's had a really good run defense this year, kind of from front to back. Their rushing defense is the highlight of this football team. They're number 20, according to Pro Football Focus, in run defensive grade. They were impressive in run defense against Alabama. Alabama just realized, wait, we don't have to run, we could just throw, and they did to great effect. The problem for this Wisconsin run defense against a run-heavy Michigan offense is that they are going to be on the field a lot, because Wisconsin not only has tied for the worst run game in the Big Ten at 3.1 yards per carry, tied with Purdue at the bottom of the conference. Their starting quarterback, Billy Edwards, is probably still out this week. They've had struggles with their backup, and I'm not trying to pile on him, but they're going to have a hell of a time sustaining drives against a talented Michigan defense led by Jayshon Barham at linebacker. The Wolverine defense will feast against Wisconsin, who has struggled with their new offensive scheme as well. I think this offensive scheme for the Badgers is a little too east and west and not enough north and south to take advantage of some of the big offensive linemen that they have on their roster. I was excited about Wisconsin's scheme coming into the year, but it just really hasn't worked very well for them so far. Boy, I got to hammer this bet. I got Michigan minus 16.5, and go ahead and bet this, guys, and trust me. The Wisconsin defensive front, which I believe has 9 defensive linemen over 300 pounds, they'll stand stout against Michigan for a time at the beginning of the game. This could be a low-scoring game for a quarter and a half, but Michigan is going to bludgeon Wisconsin in the running game by the time the second half starts. 16.5 here. I don't want to call it guaranteed money, but, I mean, I've already thrown my money away on it. So why shouldn't you guys? I mean, I think this is a lock. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Well, you hit it on the button. Whether quarterback Edwards is in or O'Neal is in, they're having a quarterback issue. They might have to go to plan C. This is not a good position Wisconsin does not want to be in going into the Big House. Whoever's the quarterback starting, it's not going to be fun. This touted defense from Michigan is going to be everywhere on the field. One of the stats that does stand out to me that I was looking up in the preview show, Wisconsin is number 1 ranked in rushing defense. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, their number 1 rushing defense, that's probably going to change. They only average 50 yards per game given up in the rushing game. I think that's going to change after this game. You have a team that loves to run, and they're going to do everything in their power to get Bryce Underwood to run the ball, and Haynes back there to run the ball too as well. I've been reading a lot about this game. I haven't said this. I know if you've watched a podcast before, some things have been said about Bryce Underwood throwing touchdowns. I didn't say this, but I will agree. I think this is a good opportunity to really test that Wisconsin secondary by airing it out a little bit, and also just getting, more. You're gonna have to throw the ball if Michigan's gonna compete. They're gonna have to just work on these plays, and I think it's a good simulation against Wisconsin. I also wrote in my notes, does Wisconsin score? ? Can you bet on that? Do you think we could bet on that, Nick? Does Wisconsin even score any points? I mean, we might see a shutout. This might get dirty.
It could be ugly. And the difference between this rushing game for Michigan and the other rushing offenses that Wisconsin's defenses face is that Justice Haynes is an absolute home run hitter in the run game. If they pop him a hole where he can get to the second level untouched, he might house call you on any given play, and they'll be patient in establishing that. We'll see if Underwood gets to take a few more reps in the passing game, but yeah, I think that Michigan is going to hammer this Wisconsin defensive line until they break, and that's not I'm not discrediting Wisconsin's defensive front, but I just think they're going to be on the field a lot because Wisconsin's offense is going to struggle to sustain any kind of drive against this formidable Wolverine defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with you. Well, now we're going to head over to West Lafayette, Indiana, as they will be hosting the Friday Illini, ranked number 22. This is also going to be at noon Eastern Time, 11 Central on the Big Ten Network. Nick, you kind of live close to Purdue. What are they feeling down there? Any of your Purdue folks down there? I know you're an IU fan, but has Purdue folks said anything about this game? Are they excited? Where are they at on the season? Any insight?
First of all, Coach Drew, I live close to a lot of schools, and Purdue is not the first one I wanted you to mention, but Butler's right down the street. Bloomington's just as close as West Lafayette is, so thanks for that. Here's what I have to say about Illinois at Purdue. Purdue's getting 9.5 points at home. I think Illinois is poised for a cover here, and I'll tell you why. For one thing, the IU game was a wake-up call for Illinois. They changed some things they're doing offensively in the run game where they are doing less east and west running and attacking the perimeter less, and they're trying to bang you between the tackles with that big boy Fagan. And Valentine can hit you between the tackles as well. So they've got two good running backs, and they're utilizing them better in the USC game last week than they had been against Indiana. So they learned a lot from the Indiana game. And USC, so let's examine this spread. Purdue's getting 9.5 at home. Illinois should have been up 2 touchdowns at the end of that USC game, and they fumbled going into the end zone 2 times. The 2 running backs I just mentioned, I'm trying not to hold a grudge. They did cost me some money on some live bets. They ran the hell out of the ball against USC, and they're going to do the same thing against the Boilermakers on Saturday. So I think that this line is skewed because if you look at the final score of the Illinois-USC game, Illinois won on a last-second field goal, but in reality, they should have been up by 2 touchdowns. So I think that they're going to cover this 9.5 spread at Purdue. And the other thing, this is why I really think this is a lock. This is the final nail in the coffin, is that Illinois allowed Purdue to take them to overtime last year. And I know that Bielema could not have been happy about that when it happened. Now, that was a wonky game with some weird bounces of the football and some strange turnovers and broken plays. But so of any team in the Big Ten that will not overlook Purdue this year, it's going to be Illinois, who still has college football playoff hopes and is not happy with the way they played Purdue last year. So Illinois is coming in loaded for bear here. They are going to be ready for the Boilers. They're not going to overlook them, and this is not going to be the same team that you saw against Indiana. Illinois covers 9.5 on the road, Drew.
Yeah, well, that's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up. I'm going to go first with, I do believe that they need to improve the run game. It hasn't been that great. I think that's going to make them one-dimensional. They're doing a great job passing the ball. The other thing I also wanted to mention is they need to attack Purdue multiple ways and really show that they can, that on film, if you reduce them to just throwing, again, that gets back into one-dimensional. I do want to say this, though, as much as I do agree that I think Illinois will be prepared for this game, it has this word, right, trap, written all over it. The reason why I say this is Illinois hosts Ohio State next week, right? Illinois needs to make sure they have their blinders on. They need to go to Purdue, handle business, go into the office, do what they need to do, and leave. It's a business trip. This isn't, just be true to yourself. Do what you need to do, right? And again, I'm not saying upset alert, but if things get wonky, you're here to hit it first. Could possibly be a trap game. That's my opinion. Any other thoughts from this game?
If you've taken ass beating like Illinois did a couple weeks ago and you're still fooled going in on a road game looking forward to the next opponent, that opponent being Ohio State, then this team is not as well coached or as disciplined as I think they are. I think they're locked in and they cover 9.5.
Pound that home. All right. So now we're going to head over to the Bobcats, who are going to be at Ball State. This actually, for counting universities that are close to Big Nick in the central Indiana area, Ball State actually might be the second closest right next to Butler, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably a little closer than Bloomington.
See, now he's smiling.
Got some good memories at Ball State, chirp, chirp. But I have to say, the Ohio Bobcats are going to cover this one also. The Ball State running offense has done pretty well this year. I know their running back is an all-conference candidate, deservedly so. But Parker Navarro and the Ohio Bobcats have been a cover machine this year, and I'm riding this magic carpet until it fails me. 14.5 on the road at Ball State with not a tough road environment. It's not a rivalry game. I get Ohio, lay the 14.5. Thank me later. Ohio's defense has been very competent this year against larger schools also. Their run game will stand up pretty well to the Ball State rushing attack. Go ahead and lay the 14.5. Bet the Bobcats. Thank us later.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Those stats are kind of wonky. They're like middle of the pack, but they played against really good opponents. Ball State, on the other hand, has some of the worst stats. They're 132nd in overall yards. They're 132nd in passing, 83rd in rushing, 30th in scoring. They only average about 15.5 points. Like, if you have a couple units, I might throw 4 or 5 on this game to cover. I mean, that's just how I feel about Parker Navarro and this Bobcat MAC championship team. Ain't that right, Nick?
I will stand up for the Cardinals a little bit on those rushing statistics because they played a couple of much bigger teams where they were outmatched on the offensive line. But when they play comparable sized teams, their running game's been pretty good. But I still think that Ohio's going to cover this one. My money's on it.
All right. So now we're going to hop onto a plane leaving central Indiana, and we're going to fly to the East Coast to Maryland, where a West Coast team is also going to fly in with us, going coast to coast as the Washington Huskies play Maryland at 2:30 Central Time. I think this is just doing the time adjustment. It would be 3:30 Maryland time, and I think Washington time, that'd be almost noon. So this is like a Washington noon game, while Maryland's is like mid-afternoon.
Yep.
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, so this is one of the most underrated games of the week in terms of could be really interesting. I'm calling this the prove it game of the week. And by prove it, I mean this. Maryland's Vegas over-under for wins coming into the season was 4.5. They've started, surprisingly, 4-0. Their quarterback, Malik Washington, is a Big Ten Freshman of the Year candidate. He's got 8 touchdowns and 1 interception against 250 yards per game passing. The Terps' running offense has still struggled this year, which has been a staple of recent Maryland squads. But as far as the prove it game of the week, again, Washington's offense last week, people thought that they might be able to threaten the vaunted Buckeyes when they hosted them last week. And their offense, while Jonah Coleman did have some good rushing output and did get him on the plus side of the field, they weren't able to punch the ball into the end zone. Damon Williams at quarterback and Denzel Boston at wide receiver, formidable combination, along with Coleman, who I think is an NFL running back for sure. They face a Terrapins defense, though, that's only allowed 2.5 yards per carry this year and 208 yards per game passing, which is middle of the pack in the Big Ten. But the Terps defense has overachieved along with their offense. So can they hold Jonah Coleman and this Husky rushing attack down? Before the Ohio State game, this Washington offense had really put up some good numbers, and they have some NFL talent, some big-time playmakers. But I do think the Washington defense will have their hands full with Malik Washington and this Terrapin offense. Malik Washington is not talked about enough player in the Big Ten right now. I mean, I very likely think he's one of the top 2 to 3 players for Freshman of the Year in the Big Ten. So nobody's talked about Maryland because everybody thought Maryland was going to suck coming into the year. Maryland is not a bad football team, and Washington has to come off taking their lumps to Ohio State and travel across the country. And we talked about last week, and we will talk about again, West Coast teams traveling east sometimes struggle. I would say I think Washington is a better team, but somebody's got to prove it here. Is Washington the team that people thought might be able to win 9 or 10 games? Or is Maryland going to prove that they're the new up-and-comer in the Big Ten? I mean, I think this would be a really fun game to watch at 3:30. I'm definitely going to have it on my TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also going to be watching this game too while I can, as I more than likely will be at the Notre Dame versus a Boise State game.
Oh,
But
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, can I have one more thing? Can Maryland put butts in the seats to support this team? This Maryland team that has overachieved at 4-0. Will their fans show up, or will their athletic department do something to put butts in the stands and give them an actual home field advantage? This team was number 95 in attendance last year, percentage-wise. if they play in front of an empty stadium, maybe Washington comes in there and runs them. But if they get some fans, get some crowd noise, Terps might make some magic on Saturday, Coach Drew.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting game for Maryland because if they somehow pull this off and they do win, because there is some things that are pointing into the Washington Husky favor, right? Maryland has the home field advantage. The Huskies traveled from coast to coast literally to play this game. This is a conference game. Maryland, if they win this, they will be ranked, I believe. Do you think, Nick?
I kind of think that's what's on the line. The Washington has to save face with what's the word I'm looking for? Your reputation. Washington had kind of a high reputation coming into the year amongst some pundits, us included, and they didn't really live up to it last week in a tough game against the best team in the country. Maryland's trying to make a name for themselves. This is kind of like Maryland's Billy the Kid, and I don't know what Cowboy Washington is in that analogy, but this is the prove it game because if Maryland goes 5-0, they have a good chance to be ranked. I think Maryland and Washington have a chance to play spoiler for some college football playoff contenders in the Big Ten as the season goes forward. So this is a really interesting game for me, but I'm a football nerd, so we'll see how you guys feel about it.
Well, if Maryland does want to pull this off, some stats that they do, they're one of the worst FBS teams to convert third down percentages. That's going to put the ball in Desmond Williams Jr.'s hand, who, again, played against one of the best defenses in the nation last week at home,
Right.
and has 0 interceptions on the season and has a 75.6 completion rate percentage. I mean, this guy played well against Ohio State. Now, did they score any points? No, that's very clear that me and Nick do know that. We're very aware.
Ohio
And
State
the other-
is the best defense in the country, though. I want Midwest Blitz listeners to understand that, though. This isn't just one of the best. Not clapping back on you, Coach Drew, but that is the best defense in America in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, and also to your saying, Malik Washington's having a great time. But going back to Washington, because I want to give Malik Washington some roses before we move on. And the last note I wanted to add was Washington is one of the best teams scoring in the red zone. This is telling me that Washington's probably going to cover, because if you can't convert on third downs, you give up the ball, then Washington's going to get into scoring position, and they usually convert. Now, again, that goes back to the last game last week, which we were talking about. Ohio State's defense did so well. They kept one of the best teams scoring in the red zone out of the red zone, which, points to a sign of good faith. So again, Washington Huskies and Maryland's probably going to be an underrated game. You guys should definitely check it out.
Hey, you gonna put your money where your mouth is on that, or are you just gonna kind of let it linger out there? I'm really interested now.
In which part? Washington to cover -6.5? Because that's what I got.
You got it? It's written down? I can write it down now?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I wrote it down.
All right.
Now we're going to go back to Illinois, to Northern Illinois. Now you guys might remember them. We're not going to remember them next year when they're the Mountain West. But this game, they are playing Miami, Ohio. They're still going to have a couple games in the MAC, so let's get them their farewell roses. Go ahead, Nick. You want to add to this game?
I just wanted to tack on that, yes, Northern Illinois is and definitely will be dead to us when they leave. When they leave Midwest Blitz coverage to go to the Mountain West, because they are neither Mountain West or west of the Mississippi. And we just want to remind you, Northern Illinois people, we're not happy about you leaving. This game is referred to as the Mallory Cup, after Bill Mallory, who is most famously the football coach at Indiana who had the most bowl wins in IU history. I think, sadly, that number of wins was 3 bowl wins. But, yeah, this is a rivalry game, and it's pretty cool that the two schools share a history where they have a rivalry trophy named after Bill Mallory. And might be a fun one to watch. What time is that game, Drew?
That game is at 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern.
3:30 Eastern. Right on. What we got next?
We got Michigan State going to the great state of Nebraska. Now, this is going to be an interesting game because Nebraska is still trying to prove that they can still compete for a college football playoff late in the season. Michigan State, just a fun team to watch. Nick, go ahead. I know you want to talk about this one.
So Michigan State visiting Lincoln, Nebraska, plus 11.5 features two of our favorite quarterbacks to talk about here on the Midwest Blitz, Mr. Dylan Raiola and Aiden Childs. One of my favorites, but I mean, honestly, I'm a pretty big fan of Mr. Raiola right now. He's really exceeded expectations that I had for him. I knew he was a pretty good player, but he's shown some composure in some tough situations, especially in that Michigan game. The question here is, with the Huskers offense going against Sparty's defense, with the combination of Dylan Raiola and Emmett Johnson at running back, I think Emmett Johnson should have a pretty big day running the football against Sparty, and that is going to help out his backfield mate Dylan Raiola have a good day throwing the ball. Sparty's defense, especially against the pass, has been pretty suspect this year, and so for Michigan State to hang around and have a chance to cover this 11.5, they're going to have to establish the run early against this Cornhuskers defense. I think that they're capable of doing it, but I think this is one of those prove it things to me where could they do it? Yeah. Do I have faith that they'll do it? Probably not. I kind of wanted to throw a wager on this game. I will say this again, if I've said it 5 or 6 times, I'll say it 5 or 6 more. I think that Aiden Childs is the type of player, especially on a game-winning situation or a backdoor cover situation, that could really hose you on a point spread. And so I just don't feel confident betting Nebraska, but I also don't have faith that the Spartans defense is going to hold up well against this Cornhuskers offense on the road. So I'm interested to watch this football game, but I don't feel good enough to put any money on it. What do you think, Drew?
Well, actually, ironic you say that because I actually do have Nebraska covering minus 11.5 at home for a few reasons. They have one of the best throwing offenses passing in the nation. They played against a stout defense in Michigan last week. Now they get Michigan State. Dylan Raiola, a.k.a. Bubba Fett, he's just going to air it out. I mean, Patrick Mahomes Jr. can do it everywhere in the air. And Michigan State's defense is ranked a little bit behind 78 overall, both rushing and passing. I do believe they want to stay in this game. They got to establish what they need to do to stay in the game is rush the ball, like you said, and then also keep Nebraska's offense on the sidelines. If Michigan State gets into 3 and outs early and Nebraska can control the tempo, especially in a strong home environment in Lincoln, Nebraska, this is going to be a spook game for Michigan State. We do want them to do good. They're 3-1. Nebraska's 3-1. This is another Big Ten matchup that, it's not the top games. Like, it's not 2 top opponents, but middle of the pack really establishing how to get to the top or even compete back into the top.
And Nebraska has high hopes still for their season. And Michigan State wants to play spoiler, and Coach Jonathan Smith wants this team to gain confidence moving into next year, which is where I think they can be very dangerous if they can bolster their defense a little bit.
Absolutely. Aiden Childs is still a dog. I mean, their defense needs to learn how to wrap up tackling.
Nick Marsh. There's a dog right there.
That is a dog. Well, now we're going to travel to the Ohio State as the #1 team takes on these people rowing down their boats in Minnesota. Now we got to make sure that we clearly say this before we even get started. So if this gets clipped, we think Ohio State's going to win. This is a disclaimer. Go ahead, Nick.
Disclaimer. We are rowing our boat for the Gophers. So I'm kind of upset going into this game because while Ohio State, given 23.5 points at home, is very reasonable, if this game was to be interesting, it would be with a healthy Darius Taylor playing for Minnesota. He's questionable / likely to play again for 3 out of the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's been questionable or likely to play with a hamstring injury. Darius Taylor, one of my favorite running backs in the Big Ten, definite NFL player. I don't have trust that he's going to play. Now, freshman quarterback Drake Lindsey for Minnesota has really played well this year. He's another Big Ten Freshman of the Year candidate. Been impressive with 950 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but he faces all of the land's best defense, the Ohio State Buckeyes. They return home to defend the shoe, and defend the shoe they will. It's going to be a tough task for Drake Lindsey to pass the ball without Darius Taylor. The Minnesota offense is way different with Darius Taylor at running back than it is without him. I mean, gosh, you want to face Caleb Downs Sonny Styles and the other Styles at linebacker. Geez, my boy from Center Grove that had 3 sacks the last game. I mean, this Ohio State defense is a meat grinder. I do think that this Gopher defense is solid. I want to say this. We repped Coy Parrish from Minnesota because we trusted PJ Fleck, saying he was a 3-way player and he was going to do this on offense and this on special teams. And Coy Parrish is a returning first-team all Big Ten defensive back. So we're not throwing too much shade at him, but for the Gophers to hang around this game, Coy Parrish is going to have to make some major plays against this Ohio State offense who they got a few playmakers, don't they? I don't know, some kid named Smith, another kid named Tate, one of the best freshman quarterbacks in the country. Oh boy, the Ohio State fans are going to be mad that I didn't say Julian Sayin was a Big Ten Freshman of the Year candidate before I said it about Drake Lindsey. But I will say that Drake Lindsey does not have the same weapons to play point guard and distribute the ball to. But I will say this, Julian Sayin's kind of like the ultimate point guard right now for Ohio State. I enjoy watching that kid play. He doesn't try to do too much. He's clearly coachable, and he knows when, where, and how to get the ball to his playmakers when there's an opportunity to get it there. They have not forced the ball, and by they, I mean Julian Super Saiyan has not forced the ball into coverages all year. So I think the Buckeyes are going to pour it on Minnesota. I just do. Unfortunately for the Gophers, this is going to be a tough one at the shoe. 23.5, Drew. What do we think about 23.5 here?
Well, if it is true, and it probably is, about Minnesota's rushing offense, it's not good at all, and it doesn't look like it's going any positive. They're going to be one-dimensional. You're going against the Ohio State and a stagnant defense that's so good. One of the fun facts about them, which we already knew from covering the Texas game, is that Ohio State has the number one red zone defense. Minnesota actually has one of the better red zone defenses. Now,
Defenses?
No, offense. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me correct myself. So, Minnesota has one of the better offenses in the red zone. What does that mean? Before I overreact here, let me make this clear. Washington also had a very good red zone offense, but only put up 6.
Yeah.
So, before we go, well, that's going to give Ohio State problems. I don't see that happening. Jeremiah Smith, or by his Uber delivery name, when he gets Uber Eats, bend over. That was perfect while you're drinking water. So, I don't know if I think for using aliases, he's going to have a great game. I mean, Julian Super Saiyan's doing everything. I mean, you got Julian Super Saiyan, you got the reincarnation of Bo Jackson, and you got bend over receiving. I mean, the Ohio State, at least offense, has like some fun going on over there. They're
Ohio
having some fun.
State. Hey, let me throw the Gophers a little bit of love before we get done with this. Part of the reason that they have an efficient red zone offense so far this year is because of Jamison Gears at tight end. He is a big old boy. He's about 6'6", 6'7". I don't know, about 260 some pounds. Looks like an NFL guy to me. 8'9".
Yeah.
That's what you say, guys. When the kids go 6'7", you go 8'9". What? Buckeyes cover this one or not, Drew?
I'm going to say they're covered. That's
Ohio State fans, let us know in the comments if you think they're going to cover. I'm sure most of you do. I don't know why I feel weird about this. If Darius Taylor was full speed, I feel like Minnesota could drag some possessions out where some clock runs and then some things happen, maybe a turnover. Maybe Ohio State, maybe you guys fumble a punt or a punt return or something. You only played 6 possessions last week, scored 24 points. That's what someone told me in the comments. I mean, things do happen, but that's my only reservation on betting this.
Big Nick also thinks that Ohio State's going to win by 40. Disclaimer, just want to make sure before we continue this video. Thank you. All right, so back to the podcast. We don't want to be assaulted by some fans out there from the Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country. Want to make sure I dot all my I's and cross out all my M's.
Yeah.
So, don't want to get no more flack over here. So, Nick, we've come across a game that's not really part of the Midwest Blitz on average. It's in our cousin conference, the Big 12. We're going to call it our cousin conference. I don't think it's official, but we'll make it official for this one. Iowa State plays Cincinnati in a Big 12 matchup. I know you want to get to it in conference, so let's go right ahead.
So the Cyclones travel to Cincy for a Big 12 matchup that has serious college football playoff implications. I think this is one of the most interesting games of the week. Of course, if paint drying would play football, I would find it somewhat interesting. So you guys take that for what you will. Not saying this game is not going to be like watching paint dry. I do think that it's really interesting to me that 5-0 undefeated Iowa State is getting 1.5 points on the road as of this recording. So Cincinnati struggled in the passing game week 1 against Nebraska, but since then, Brandon Sorsby has been very efficient with 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a QB rating of 87.6. The Cincinnati offense has taken leaps and bounds since we last covered them against Nebraska. Now, I will say this, the Cyclones defense has allowed 14.2 points per game this year. And this defense has been kind of slept on even going back to last year. Although I will say the Cyclones have had a little bit of struggles tackling. PFF has their tackling scores, I think, the number 81 team in the country. So this is a very competent Cincinnati offense against what I think of as a fundamentally sound Iowa State defense. PFF questions their tackling ability. Maybe the mathletes at PFF are wrong. I found that an interesting stat coming into the game. I think my questions are more on the other side of this matchup, though, with the Cyclone offense facing off against the Cincinnati defense. So, again, with the PFF scores, the PFF receiver score for the Cyclones is somewhere in the high 80s to low 90s. Their receivers have not been graded well, and they lost 2 NFL wide receivers from last year. They still have veteran quarterback Rocco Becht, which is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch play. This guy can make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what. I think he's a very good player, Rocco Becht. Their run game is kind of middle of the road this year, and this is where the real matchup that decides this game and decides whether I wager money on this game comes up. Cincinnati has a football player. All right, Drew. I don't know if you know about this guy. They got a big old boy up front. The kind of big boy, kind of corn-fed big old boy that we love here on the Midwest Blitz. And his name is Dante the Godfather Corleone at defensive tackle. To me, at 6'1", 335 and agile as a dancing bear, this guy's got NFL stamped on his forehead. This guy makes plays at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage. He's a bad boy. I wish I could have coached a player that was that big and that talented when I coached defensive linemen. The problem here is that the Godfather Corleone was out against the Kansas Jayhawks last week, and Cincinnati still had a very respectable defensive performance in that win. But I think that having Corleone is a monster difference for me in wanting to bet this game. If it's game time Saturday and they say Corleone is playing, you might go ahead and lay the points. You might go ahead and just bet Cincinnati outright. But without him, it changes things, because despite statistical questions and PFF numbers about Iowa State's offense, I trust in Rocco Becht, and I trust in Matt Campbell's ability to call a game where if they stay within one score at the end, they figure out a way to squeak it out and win. But I think this is a really interesting matchup. If Corleone plays, though, Cincinnati got a pretty good chance to whoop them at home. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Well, I think that Iowa State I'm taking the money line even. That's what I got, according to ESPN bets. Cincinnati has had some troubles taking care of the ball, as they're -1 right now. Iowa State, I think they're going to try to air it out against Cincinnati. Iowa State's going to try to air it out against Cincy. These are two things that's going to happen. So my keys to the game here is Cincinnati, take care of the ball. Iowa State, if you want to win, you got to air it out because their passing defense is not that good, which could be affected because, like you said, the Godfather, right? So there is some stuff there to be said, because we know that teams that do not create pressure in the front, especially if they play certain zones, okay, we're not talking about Notre Dame here, but we know who we're talking about. And then time clock issues. Cincinnati has a has a problem time of control. Now that could be because they turn over the ball. It could be because they're not getting good stops. But a team like Iowa State, who has a coach who will literally run the ball and run a whole quarter out, especially with the lead, you got plus 1.5, which is basically money line even. I would take that Iowa State, especially with Rocco Beck. I like this team a lot, this Iowa State team. Iowa fans, close your ears, but I think they are special this year for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against a team that you and I have seen manage end of game situations, and they don't have to beat you by 100. They don't have to win any certain kind of way. They have kind of a balanced attack offensively. In fact, is a high IQ quarterback who also is an adept scrambler when the opportunity presents itself. So you think, oh, we slowed him down in the running game. We got him third medium, third and long-ish. And then Beck will take off and scramble. I think I heard a stat. You guys tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think the Cyclones are about 50% on third down conversions this year. And that ain't too bad, Coach Drew. That ain't too bad.
Yeah, that's not for yeah, for sure not. That's not bad.
Not bad
So,
at all.
Do you want to travel to South Bend with me? As we can go here with South Bend figuratively. I know you can't go with us on Saturday, but
I literally was going to travel to South Bend with Drew tomorrow, but I had other obligations.
yeah. This game was
I
circled
did.
on our.
I did.
Yeah.
I have plans. I have a birthday party.
He's gonna show up. He's gonna show up at South Bend. He's gonna trick us. It's all a trick. It's smoke and mirrors. Just like what Notre Dame's gonna do to Boise State with their new reamped defense. Boise State came into the season playing in the college football playoff last year. Now Boise State has, if you play college football, the video game, Boise State has a special place in your heart because they had the blue turf, they had the blue uniforms. They're this random team from Idaho. You know, they got to play in the college football playoffs last year. And I was excited. I didn't have this on my list of games to go to. This was last minute too, guys, by the way. But Boise State, I thought this would be a big matchup. Thought they would still be ranked. I didn't think Notre Dame was going to be 0-2, but here we are. Boise State 3-1 travels to South Bend, who's 2-2 right now. I like Notre Dame's odds. I think a lot of people are giving Notre Dame the benefit of the doubt that they can cover minus 20.5 as they score on like every possession, and they're like averaging, I don't know, 60 points. What do you think, Nick? You got any thoughts about this game?
I've got to admit, although I've got some Boise State nostalgia and I'm a fan of their mid-major success that they've had on and off throughout the years, I haven't followed that close since they lost the opener to South Florida. I mean, it's kind of hard to pick against Notre Dame covering by 20.5 at home, but I don't want to endorse a bet when I haven't really researched Boise State's defense. I do wish I was going with you guys to the game tomorrow, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, overall, their defense, I'll just give you, it's kind of middle of the pack right now. It's 54th overall with 341 yards per game. I mean, giving up 24.8 ranks you 75th. One of the big takeaways from this game before we wrap it up here, everybody, is I need the Fighting Irish to play good on defense, especially through the pass, and continue to lower that stands at 121st ranked overall in the FPS. Again, I know we played two tough ranked teams in the season, and they found little divots in our defense, but I have high hopes for my Irish because I want them to win the national championship. Obviously, I'm going to endorse them because I like them. I endorse a lot of teams on here to win the national championship, but again, if they want to do that, they're going to have to fix that number and bring it lower for all the stat nerds at home.
I'll say this. I don't think that based on Boise State's roster offensively, that they have the tools to exploit what I see as weaknesses in Notre Dame's pass defense, the same way Miami and Texas A&M did. Definitely not that kind of roster. I think the next real test for Notre Dame's secondary and this new defensive scheme or philosophy, whatever you want to call it, under Chris Ash, is probably going to come in the USC game, which me and Drew will be at that game. They definitely have the receivers and the quarterback. Mayaba's had a heck of a year. I think he's a really good player. I don't think Boise State, Maddox Masden, the quarterback for Boise State, who I like a lot, he's from a baseball family. That's why his first name's Maddox. His brothers are named after baseball players also. I don't think, though, that he has the weapons to really pick this Notre Dame defense apart. USC might later in the year, and we're going to find that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So that wraps up our coverage of all the games that we wanted to cover this week on the Midwest Blitz. Now we're going to go ahead and give you guys our betting. What are the words? Our bets for the week.
Our picks
I
of
don't
the
know. I was
week.
going to say something.
Picks of the
Yeah, I
week,
was going to say
Drew. We picked some stuff. We bet on some shit, and we're going to share it. We're going to share it with the public. You ready, Coach Drew?
Yep,
I got
absolutely.
Michigan minus 16.5 at home against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not going to stay on the field long enough to, well, I'll say this. Michigan's time of possession in this game is going to be absolutely monstrous. So, with enough carries, Haynes finds the end zone more than a couple times, and we'll see what Bryce Underwood could do with his legs and in the air. I got Illinois minus 9.5 at Purdue. I think that Illinois is on kind of a revenge tour right now, and I think that Illinois' defensive line is ready to go in there and hammer down on the Boilers, pun intended. I got Ohio minus 14.5 at Ball State. Bobcats cover at Ball State. Vegas has undervalued the Bobcats all year. We've been taking advantage of it so far. I'm going to ride the wave until it is over. Who you got, Coach Drew?
I got Nebraska covering 11.5 at home. I also like the Iowa State where it's an even bet while they're traveling on the road to Cincy. I like Washington going into Maryland covering the minus 6.5. I got Ohio, our favorite Bobcats, Parker Navarro covering the minus 15.5. And then I got Michigan, which is in a flux right now of 16.5 to 17.5 to cover 1 point. I'm still cool with both. I think Michigan's going to have a huge game. But those are my picks.
Anything we missed, Coach Drew? I feel like we
we're
left
at the
some
part
money.
where we say good day.
We left some money on the table here somewhere. Do we want to go back over all these notes and figure out? There's got to be another bet we could make while we do our Midwest goodbye, which is a tradition here on the Midwest Blitz.
Yeah, let me look through if I can find a bet real quick while we're doing our Midwest goodbye. So Midwest goodbye traditionally starts as goodbye, and then it goes into the garage where we're at getting our beer because you have to drink one beer, and then you say, "All right, I'm gonna go." Then you tell them, "No, you gotta drink two because it's rude to only drink one."
Yes.
This is Midwest customs. If you're not familiar with it, and then you go, "Is your faucet leaking over there?" And you go, "Yeah, it is." You know what? Let's go work on that. And before you know it, now you're working on there. Then you got to have another beer because you helped, and that's rude not to take presents.
I've got a wrench in my truck that's perfect for that leaky faucet, and that is how a Midwest goodbye continues. Dude, if I wanted to bet this Iowa State-Cincinnati game so bad, if they would have told me that Corleone was out, probably would bet Cyclones. If they would have told me he was in, I might have bet the Bearcats. But they're giving us pretty much nothing. Everybody does the Bill Belichick treatment now with the injury updates. Updates is we're not telling you shit. That's going to be a fun game. I can't bet it, though. I got to know if the big man's in there.
Enough. Well, one of the bets that I found that we didn't cover, but can Buffalo, who's 2-3 on the season overall, 1-0 in the MAC against Eastern Michigan Eagles. Right now, they're minus 10.5. Maybe our Buffalo Bulls finally show off that they can do it. One of my early bets in the season, I had Buffalo Bills winning their respective conference of the MAC, and I also picked Penn State to win the conference for the Big Ten. But after that, now I'm scared of ducks. I was originally scared of geese, but now I'm scared of ducks. That quack attack is scary. They played Mo Bamba all week. I was watching those videos again, and the kids were singing it. They got annoyed with it. They wore white in a whiteout just to challenge the whole theory. And on top of that, when they came out of the stadium when they were singing, instead of looking timid, they looked like gladiators about to go to war. And that's exactly what they did out in the whiteout. They made Happy Valley look like it was a walk in the park. Like this was just another average stadium, which I still am in awe about. Credit to Oregon. They look like the favorite right now with the Ohio State to play in the championship, I believe. I am waiting to see what happens with Indiana versus Oregon. Indiana did prove they beat Illinois. If Indiana beats Oregon, then I have them with them. But Oregon won before Nick kills me through the screen and we're not having a good Midwest goodbye no more. The reason why I say is Oregon won the Big Ten last year and Ohio State won the national championship. I love Indiana and I hope for the best.
Indiana's got a bye week. We don't have to talk about that right now. Yeah, Dan Lanning did prove to be the ultimate road dog last week. I don't think his players gave half a shit about the whiteout. Did you hear the quote or see I retweeted it, but you might not have seen it. It was Lanning telling the players, you're going to face 110,000 fans in this whiteout. That's 110,000 people that won't play one snap in this football game, won't make one tackle in this football game, and basically they don't matter. Dude, Dan Lanning is the ultimate psychologist for his football team when it comes to these road games. It kind of reminds me of an old Bob Knight story where during Knight's successful years as the basketball coach at IU, I mean, they were unbelievably good at home, but they were really good on the road too. And a reporter asked him about it one time, and he said, I feel like we have the advantage on the road. We don't have to go to class that day. We've got tutors that work with our players in the morning. They get their schoolwork done, and then they've got the rest of the day to focus on basketball. So he took the disadvantage of being on the road and in his player's mind turned it into a psychological advantage. All we've got to worry about is playing this basketball game today, fellas. Let's have a team meal. Let's go out there and execute. And that's all the mind games that great coaches play with their players. I mean, Lanning telling those guys, yeah, it's 110,000 people that won't play one snap or make one tackle. I absolutely love that out of Dan Lanning. What a dog that guy is.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan Lanning has definitely maxed out his road dog on college football 25.
Yeah, no doubt.
So if you use him as a coach, you don't have to worry about playing anywhere. I mean, the stadium and the quarterback, you can make audibles and everything. No wiggle lines, nothing. No blackout lines.
No wiggle
I
lines.
mean, it's just like you might as well be playing at a neutral site when you use the Oregon Ducks with Dan Lanning.
Dude,
insane.
I really have faith in the Illini this week, Drew, as we continue this heartfelt Midwest goodbye. Illinois fans, if you see this part, I really do think you guys are good still. And I'm an Indiana fan. I know you had a bad game. I really think Illinois is a good football team, and they're going to be slept on. I don't think Illinois is sleeping on Purdue this week at all. If they prove me wrong, I am going to rip some Illini butt on the show next week. But I don't think Illinois is taking Purdue lightly. Not after they went to overtime last year, and not after what happened in their last road game at Indiana. They're going to show up as focus can be.
Well, since I have my Pirates booty right here still, I just want to reflect and say we have a coin that has two tails. One side says it's a trap game, and the other says we're on revenge. So it's like a choose your own adventure of how the next podcast can go on the recap with Nick. Either Nick goes, I told you, Coach Drew, it wasn't a trap game. Congrats, Illinois. You know what you're doing. Or it goes, listen here, mother truckers. That's the two routes we're going.
Remind me to bring my coins next week. I've got football coins.
There you go. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Well, it's been a hell of a Midwest goodbye, Drew.
It has been. This is Coach Drew and Big Nick. Coach Drew signing off.
Yup. We'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the games this weekend. Let us know in the comments how shitty our picks were.
Yup. And if you're seeing this Notre Dame, let me know where you're at. I'll try to find you.
He will